Yeah. All right, guys. So today we're going to talk about it's I labeled this 101 to advanced training. What that means is for people watching this, and it's tough because I sort of got to go off of the broader, person watching this. Some of you guys that are on here right now are going to know this, and it's more of a reminder than anything. And you're welcome to log off if you feel like you're not getting something from it. But obviously welcome to stay on if you feel like you are. Um, the uh um the reason why it's labeled that is because there's a realization point as you go through training. If you look at the training structure, day one in training, we go through all of the specifics of the job, right? We go through anything from dress code to the history of Anderson. Day two, and we also go through the first page of the script. Day two of the job, we go through the second page of the script and finishing up the script, basically the second and I guess there's a small amount of a third page. Then we dive into rebuttals, and we have a significant amount of rebuttals to learn at that point. At that point, we dive into window problems, and we outro into the conversation, what that's going to look like. But the stuff that we go through is very rudimentary in a lot of ways. And we do that on purpose. The reason why we're making it that way, why we're making it basic and rudimentary is because it's got to fit every person's ability to learn that's in that training class with you. Um, okay, I thought that editor thing would do something different. Editor score 92%. Cool. I didn't need a score. I needed a marker or a pen. I guess that's PDF that I would have to open it in order to get that, which I can do. It's just going to have some mistakes on it if I do. Hold on one second. I'm going to open up a PDF version of this real quick. But I can't promise that it won't have some differences in it slightly because it wouldn't have been updated. Here's the good thing though, is that I can put the event scripting right next to it. So we're one thing that's extremely difficult to teach people is how to change and adapt mid pitch, mid conversation. And that's something that we don't go through in training really. But it's something that's very relevant to what we do. It's important that people understand the line, and not to cross it. Not because like, hey man, you crossed the line, like it's a real big problem for me, but because you'll go from being in a good place to schedule customers to being in a very bad place to schedule customers. Okay. So let's go through some of those change points first. When it comes to the script, what are some areas that we typically will change? And we'll go from there. See if I do this. Hopefully it highlights. Oh no, here, highlighter's right here. So I'll keep this on that, and my highlighter will be yellow. Okay. All right. So we start off every conversation. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Duffy. You must be Mr. Jones. Now, first thing, obviously the name's going to change. That's something that's going to change every single time. Why won't this let me draw on here? There we go. Okay. Now, why is that relevant? Why am I bringing it up? When that was the first. So whenever I transitioned from Boston to Philadelphia, okay, we made a lot of changes in the script. This is when the window problem changes started coming on. What I mean by that is that before going to Philadelphia, we didn't even touch on window problems. I didn't even know what window problems were. But I recognized the issue for what it was. I recognized that it was something that was necessary to learn and put into the script. Up to that point, people had to kind of learn on their own. I thought vinyl windows were good windows. But the second change that was made was probably my second year in Philadelphia. They said, hey, here's ground force. And now you're going to approach customers and you're going to say their name when you approach them. And I was so incredibly uneasy with it. I didn't think it was going to work at all. I thought that it was silly, that it was stupid, and I was aggravated by the change. However, recognizing that I got to move with the times, I said, all right, well, before we jump into this, I want to go out there and test this. So I spent like 2 days on the road, just going door to door myself, talking to as many customers as possible, and bringing up this name thing to them. Um, I had one customer out of all of them. I thought I was going to have like 50% of people go, "Where the hell did you get my name?" I had one customer ask me where I got their name, and I told them county records, it's public record. When we're coming out here to visit, we like to know the names of the people we're talking to. It's just it shows that we care, for you. And the person's like, okay, that makes sense. No big deal. There was no other issues with it at all. So my conceived problem, it wasn't really a problem at all. Um, uh, Once that was out the window, it made it much easier. Not because in this case it made it easier to set. Sure, you could say, well, you're saying their name, it's making it a little bit easier to talk to them. Fair, that's fair. But it made it easier because ground force makes it drastically easier to get leads into enabled. So I wouldn't have to spend all my time calling the call center, having them write down all the information, having them confirm all the information, and then not getting my lead in at the end of the day anyways because they wrote it down on some piece of paper somewhere. Having to check all that to see if stuff was in. Stuff would, for the most part, automatically be in. Unless there was a problem with the system, it would automatically be in. And so it was a big positive change. Now, people today wouldn't pick that out and say, oh, that's a difference in what we do, because it's not. It's been like that for years now at this point. But what it did help for me, and I think for us as an overall staff, is if you call me today and you say, hey, ground force is down, then I can tell you exactly how to respond. I can tell you that it's not a big deal at all. You know what I mean? We just kind of go back to the basics where we had pitched before. It's not hard. As a matter of fact, the benefit now is you have a map right on your iPad, right? Back when I first started, people literally still had flip phones, most of them. The iPhone had just came out. You couldn't really look at Google Maps or whatever and see exactly where you're at. So it's still easier. Okay. Now, the second place of real change comes right here. Okay. The reason I stopped here is I noticed you're going to be replacing your windows soon, and I may be able to help. The reason I stopped here is this changes almost every pitch. Okay. And the reason why it changes almost every pitch, but we teach it the way it is on paper, is because this is the average. You could go out and say this at every door, and it's not going to have any negative impact whatsoever. No one's going to go, oh, well, what do you mean? As long as you're self-aware. If I walk up to a house and it looks like they just replaced everything, it's a 100-year-old house with 5-year-old vinyl windows, and I say, I know this is going to be replacing your windows soon, then I might sound kind of stupid, right? But besides that, that's just a little bit of self-awareness. Besides that, largely, I'm never going to run into a problem with this. Never going to have an issue with it. That's why we teach it, because it is the average. It's not what's going to come up at one door. It's what's going to come up at. It's not going to come at every door. It's going to come at one door, and so you have to adapt to the situation. So, for example, we'll say the reason I stopped here is it looked to gather the original vinyl windows. How long have you lived in the home? Okay, well, the reason why I stopped here is because there was some rotting in your wood windows in the front of the home. And how long have you been dealing with that? Whatever it is, but it's your opening to bring up window problems. Okay. Now, something that I think is essential in the third change to scripting in just the introduction that we made is the question, how long have you lived in the home? Okay. Now, to you guys, this is a normal question. This is not a question that we ever asked. We added this definitely post-COVID. Maybe like 3 years ago. And the idea was the customer is always going to answer to a positive. Unless they are the most negative customer on earth, which exists, they're always going to answer to a positive. And so they're going to go, oh, 10 years, why? Right? Or, yeah, we just moved in, right? Or a couple of years, but I'm really not interested in windows right now. It's going to give you a preview of what you're going to be dealing with and how you're going to address things. And so it's 100% a positive. That should be asked in every single pitch, right? Now, if I flip over to the event scripting real quick, try to mess that up. We don't really have a question that's like that, but if you can see what we do, erase this quick. It's a similar transition, and there's a lot of ambiguity for it. We go from sweepstake okay, we're going to have this conversation about this contest that we're doing, okay, into scheduling an appointment, and we ask the question, if you were to win, what would you focus on first, your windows or doors? And similarly, it's an easy question for the customers to answer because it's just about a contest, right? No problem. Yeah, I can answer that. It's just about a contest. Well, if I was to win, probably my doors first. They're really a problem. They're very hard to open and close. They're not energy efficient, so on and so forth, right? So the thing is that we inherently limit our customer base to an extent by going for a sweepstake, okay? Because we're missing some customers there. Unless you're the exception and you're really, really good, which there are those people out there, like really, really good. But unless you're the exception, and let me take a different route with that. Actually, I'm going to go a different way with that. So so typically this is going to work, okay? But you're going to limit yourself to just the customers that are willing to sign up for a $50,000 window makeover. And you don't want to let those people go. So inherently, something has to not change here, but we have to come up with different ways to be able to communicate with that customer. If that customer says, no, I'm good. Like, so here's an example, right? Out of the people that are on this call right now, there's not many, but raise your little yellow hand that you can find in like your emotions or whatever it is on your thing. And if you are someone that would walk by a contest simply because you don't believe that it's a real contest or you just don't care. Okay. I'm going to raise my hand too. Okay. If you can't raise your little yellow hand, then because you don't know where it is, just unmute yourself and say, yeah, me too. Okay. All right. So pretty much everybody. Okay. So I think everybody actually. So here's the deal. So if you're that kind of person, then I'm going to lose you 100% of the time that I'm doing this and not focusing on anything else, right? So I think this is a good way to drive business. However, you have to have a fallback, right? So you could ask a question like, okay, what are you here for today, Mr. Jones? You might ask that question first. Depends what show you're at, right? Let's say that you're at a sports card show. You might say, hey, you looking for anything in particular? Do you get anything cool, right? Let's say that you're at a retail location, Mr. Jones, they just have a quick question for you. Get them to stop, stand in front of them, sort of, and say, how old are your windows? Right? Tell them about the contest, but if they say no to that, it doesn't mean no to an appointment. Okay. So there's definitely ambiguity. There's areas for change there. And what we do is, guys, when we have a lot of areas for change without the actual change, we don't teach the change. Then we end up opening things up for everybody to do a different thing, and that's when you see unstable numbers in a canvassing job or in the events job. Okay, so we go through the window problems, and there's a lot of change there. Obviously, a lot of change there, but it should always end with the question. Always end with the question. May I make a suggestion? Which is right here. And the reason why that's such a strong question is because people are not going to say no to it. Okay. So people are not going to say no to, may I make a suggestion? So make sure that you're always asking that. If you're getting no's to that on a consistent basis, like no, you absolutely cannot type stuff, then you're asking in an incorrect way. And you have to be able to get through that and over that. Okay. It's going to happen. You're going to get people that just go, nope, not interested, slam. Okay, just like you're going to get people that are going to open the door, roll their eyes, and slam the door in your face anyways. It's going to happen, right? It's about limiting that, okay? So when I ask the customer, may I make a suggestion? What I need to make sure of is that I'm in a positive place with the customer. And that's going to be the first point that I'm going to write down. I just want to write this down because I'm going to bring it up after. And that is, this is very important for anybody starting in this job. Whenever you are experiencing an issue in numbers, look a couple. Okay, whenever you're experiencing an issue with in numbers, look a couple steps back for the answer. And what I mean by that is that if my cancellation rate is high, then I'm not going to just look at the 90 minutes and all the obvious stuff. Okay. If my cancellation rate's high, then I'm going to look at how am I getting that customer onboarded in a happy way? Do they feel like they're bought in? Right. I'm not just going to look at the one thing. I'm going to look at a bunch of different things. Okay. I know. Let's do something real quick. Okay. I gotta go wash my hands. I got like lotion on. I gotta get rid of this lotion. That's funny because I'm like mentally insane, dude. I'm like, I need my hands are dry now. I'm like, I need this greasy shit off my hands. So this is gonna go up on YouTube too. It's just funny. While I do this, okay, I'm gonna ask for one thing. Corey and Corey. Oop, I didn't mean to highlight that. Corey Higgins and Corey Minton. Can you guys help me out with something real quick?
Sure.
I need you guys to give an example. Okay, one of you plays customer, the other one play canvasser. An example of this part changing right here. Okay, I noticed that you're going to be replacing your Windows soon. I may be able to help. So very simple. Okay, just pitch each other back and forth a couple times. Put in different things there. Whether it's you had some vinyl replacements on your home, whatever it is. Give me 2 minutes and start to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Corey Higgins, you good?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and play customer for you, other Corey.
All right, sounds good, Corey. Good afternoon. My name is Corey Mitten. You must be Mr. Jones.
Yeah, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Jones. I'm with Renewal by Anderson. We're doing some work for the Smiths up at 123 Main Street. I stopped here. I noticed you had the vinyl windows. I know a lot of the neighbors have the original Andersons. I'm assuming these aren't original in the house.
Yeah. No, I got them replaced.
Oh, it's good to hear. What year did you get that done?
I think me and the wife did that probably about 5-ish years ago.
Okay. Did you get them all done at the same time, or is that just the most recent ones?
Uh, we've done them in stages. Bedrooms first, bottom floor last.
Okay. So was 5 years the first stage, or is that the last stage?
Uh, Man, you're really running me through the ringer here. Probably, man, that probably was the last stage, I'd have to say.
Okay, and that makes sense. A lot of homeowners will do it in stages. Now, talking to some of the neighbors, they've also got rid of the original windows. There's only a couple neighbors that have them. The problem with vinyl, though, is that it expands in the heat and shrinks in the cold. So usually what we'll see pop up is things like hot spots, cold spots, and drafts. Now, I would assume that you probably noticed a temperature difference in the rooms where you did that first stage compared to the newest room. Where is that first stage at?
That would be probably the newest stage would probably be this bottom floor here in the living room area,
Okay.
in the back of the house.
And where do you notice the largest temperature difference in the home?
I'm on meeting.
It was definitely on the top floor.
Okay, and that would make sense just because of the age of the windows. So that's one that I like to use. Just saying that, like, oh, these clearly aren't original from seeing the neighbors' homes, and that you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
break to a good conversation from that.
Okay, cool. All right, so we get that done. So thank you guys. And again, I was just thinking about it as I was walking. I'm like, I know this might seem for a lot of people a little bit basic for 101 to advanced, but again, keep this in mind when it comes to 101 to advanced. Um, we are we're there's a couple key things that make appointments set and make appointments go through. Okay. And it's not really personal connections. You don't need to personally connect with customers. The script, the pitch that you're doing, that needs to connect with customers in a way that makes them feel comfortable and strong about scheduling an appointment with you. So there's plenty of people out there that struggle to make personal connections. And so the importance of this and understanding why we, commit change to the not the system but the script. The system really never changes. The script is what changes. As we do that, not to confuse things. No, it's a very simple system. Part of that system is adapting based on the situation that you're in. And this is really hard to get when people first start. When people first start, it's extremely difficult to understand sometimes, right? Um, So thank you guys. Is there anything else to add there? Do you guys finish up?
Yeah, it was all good.
Okay, cool. All right. So this is the big section for this. Okay. The value of the visit. And the reason why is this is the hardest part for people to learn. And so you might go, well, if you're going to change anyways, why are you making people learn it? It's extremely important to have the foundation. It's extremely important to know this. I'm going to take this off the screen real quick. Oh, I keep doing that where I keep drawing with the highlighter on the side of the page. I'm going to take this off that part off the screen real quick. Okay. It says on there, one of our foremen needs to see your windows to make sure that we can do what needs to be done here and find out what you'd like or find out what you want. If we can't be a service to you, we'd be glad to recommend someone else who can. However, we can be a service to you. We'll show you the windows and how they're installed. And if you like what you see, we'll take some measurements and leave you with a free price code. That way, when you're already, you'll know exactly what can be done and what it will cost. Does that sound helpful? Hit or miss a couple words. That's basically what it says, right? That's not how I pitch this. It's very, very close. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference if you're a customer. However, the way that I say this typically is we need to have one of our foremen come out to see if we can even do what needs to be done here, find out what you like. And you know what? If we can't be a service here, it's fine. We'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can help you, then we'll leave you with a free price code so you at least have the information set aside. Now, you might go, well, that's pretty similar too. No, it's way different. Even down to the beginning. We need to have one of our foremen come out to see your windows. Okay, right there. One of our foremen needs to see your windows. It's different. Okay, we need to have one of our foremen come out. Okay, let's say that I'm coming off an objection. May I make a suggestion? Look, I'm really not interested right now. I have a lot going on. I just don't have any money right now. Okay, sir. Well, I can appreciate you letting me know that. Thank you. I'll tell you what I'll do instead. Then is just have one of our foremen come out, see if we can even do what needs to be done here, and find out what you'd like. So the second part, guys, is if you can avoid rebuttals, and we're gonna spend some time on that. But avoid rebuttals when you can. Okay, and you're doing that not because you don't want to. It's because there's no point in going back and forth with the customer if a slight agreement can create a positive interaction that allows you to be able to continue through your scripting. Okay. Let the scripting do your work. Okay. Let the scripting do your work. Corey Higgins, are you like a big mini golf fan or what's going on with your picture? I just have to ask.
Yeah, I'm actually do social media marketing for golf and golf products as well.
Oh, cool. Really? I did not know that about you. That's interesting. I knew that you were into golf a bit because I was surprised whenever you said that. This was like a while back, but I didn't know that you did that. That's neat. Cool. What's the best brand for golf clubs?
It honestly depends on the person in your swing. My best recommendation is learn how to play golf and then go get fitted. Getting fitted is your best possible option to know what's best for you because every person's different.
That was a rebuttal right there. That was a good rebuttal. That was a good rebuttal. What I don't even know what getting fitted in golf means. I know that it exists, but I don't even know. I guess that means like height of the things or whatever. I don't even know, dude. I am so foreign to golf. It's crazy.
Kind of like what we do, like our technicians come out,
Uh-huh.
we take a recording of your golf swing. We'll take some measurements and stuff, and then we kind of find out like your impact angle, your spin rate, stuff like that, what's best for you and what's going to work for your swing and your game.
Cool, cool. I should go do that for fun. I think I'm going to do that for fun.
It's a really fun sport you can play until you retire.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I feel like you get better when you're older, depending on who you are. So my father, he used to think that he was a good golfer. He's not very good at all. I've played with him before. He's not very good. That's the only time I've ever played golf. All right. So, anyways, I digress. But that's it's. I just saw that and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Um, so you can see where the change is in here. Now, the thing is with this, guys, is this should not be made smaller for no reason. However, there's things that you can cut out and change in this that aren't going to make an impact. The whole entire driving point here, okay, is that we are having one where we're going to have one of our foremen come out, okay, and they need to see your windows. I look like I'm crossing that out. That's not very good. Don't want to do that. Let's erase that real quick, and we will. All of a sudden, people will just be going to make sure. All right. Let's use the highlighter. So the whole point is that we're going to have one of our foremen come out, okay, and they need to see your windows. The point is that we're going to check and see what we can do, okay, see what needs to be done. All right, we're going to check the problems, okay. This is just something to say that the reason why we say this part right here, if we can't be a service to you, we'd be glad to recommend someone else who can, is because what we're saying to the customer is we don't even know if we could do this yet. It's not a big deal. You know, we're just going to check to see if we can do it. So you might go, well, what do you mean? You know, it's just a double hung window. Of course we can do it. The whole purpose is you're telling the person, hey, we're just going to check if we're going to do it. We're going to check if we can do it, right? So we'll show you the windows, this and that. Okay, the installation process, again, not super important to it. That's not really the point. It's just what we're going to do while we're out there. The biggest thing is we're going to give you a price. That way, when you are ready to do something, you'll know what can be done and what it will cost. Okay. Now I want to bring up here. I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm really bad with this. I wish I had a mouse. That would be good. So, and then we ask the question, does that sound helpful? Now, all of these questions are meant to drive a specific type of objection or a specific response. Okay. So I'm going to make a note of that. Now, what I'm doing right now, guys, is I'm making kind of a list. I'm going to go through this after of key points here for this training. That way, after we're done with this part, I can go through and notate specific things that we're trying to accomplish by doing this. Okay. So right now I have, if you're taking notes, is I have, whenever you're experiencing an issue or a mistake in numbers, you got to look back a couple steps for the answer. It's not typically what you think it is. If you try to change some stuff or whatever, or your manager's working with you or whatever, and they seem like they're not getting it, they're going, oh, you sound good. I don't know what's happening. It's probably 3 steps behind what they think the issue is, and that's why they're not catching it unless they have a lot of experience in training. Avoid rebuttals whenever you can. Your goal should never be to rebuttal. It doesn't mean that you leave, okay? But avoid the need to rebuttal, all right? And we'll teach you how to do that. And then driving a specific response from the customer allows you to control the conversation completely, okay? Now, here's the deal. You might go, well, what if you lose control? Inherently, some customers are just not going to fall for that. Absolutely. That's why having really, really good scripting is a great fallback for something like that. At the end of the day, we don't want you going through the motions of the job. However, if you end up needing to go through the motions, it's not the worst thing in the world. We want you to be able to win while doing that, though. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I was walking with Cole yesterday,
Mhm.
and he mentioned how you should never use the value of the visit as a rebuttal. Could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I don't agree with that verbiage, that he used with that. I'll be honest. Inherently, it's going to become a rebuttal. I mean, it depends on how you define a rebuttal, right? So I'd have to talk to him and figure out what the hell he was saying by that. You know what I mean? Because I think that it inherently is a rebuttal. I mean, anything that you're saying to respond back to a customer really is a rebuttal. You know what I'm saying? So let me get back to that question because I think that I can answer that when I go through what I just wrote down, which is driving a specific response from the customer. Okay.
Right. That's why I asked that.
Let me circle back around to that. I'm going to write that down right now just so I don't forget. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Because to me, the scripting is inherently a rebuttal if it's answering back to a customer's concern or objection, right? A rebuttal is completely objective. I mean, it's good. I could say, are you sure you're not interested? And technically that could be a rebuttal, right? So it's like, I think kind of, I don't know exactly what he was driving for. And if he was here, then I'd ask him. I don't think, we're not going to call him to ask him. I'll give you the necessary information, then we can follow up Monday and go, hey, what were you talking about? You know what I mean? Just because maybe he's talking about something completely different that I'm not understanding, but let's see where we get to with this here. So the question, does that sound helpful, is going to bring up a specific response. Okay. The customer a lot of times will say no. Okay. That's going to happen. But imagine if you said, does that sound good? Okay. Or if you said nothing at all and you just went to the next section, and then your next question was, I have your last name as Jones. What's your first? You're not going to get a positive response ever from the customer. Okay. So when you say, does that sound helpful? You're asking a specific question, and it's purposely not, does that sound good? Okay. Does that sound helpful is meant to solicit a response like, yeah, but not right now. Or it would be, but I'm getting my roof done. So we got other projects that are on our minds, right? In any number of different objections, they're meant to respond with an objection there. And that's sort of why I feel like the value of the visit becomes an inherent rebuttal, right? So does that sound helpful is the question that's asked, let's say that customer says, it does, but not right now. I got a bunch of projects that I got to handle first. That I would say to create agreement, with the customer. I'm gonna make a note of that too. I'm going to say, oh, that makes perfect sense, Mr. Jones. I wouldn't do my windows either. I'll tell you what, when we come out, we'll just go over your options, answer your questions, and leave you with a quote that's good for a full year. And I'll put a note on here that you got a bunch of other projects going on. So I have your last name here as Jones. What's your first? Right? So inherently, I mean, if you want to call that a rebuttal, then call it a rebuttal. If you don't, then don't. But to me, it's kind of in between, right? I mean, and so in that case, am I using the value of the visit as a rebuttal? I mean, sort of, right? So that's where the verbiage that that you said that Cole used, that's where it confuses me, if I'm being honest. But does that make sense what I'm saying right here?
That does. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's like this. It's like I don't want to get caught up in, and I know that you're not trying to do this, but I don't want to get caught up in a what is and what is not a rebuttal, kind of thing. And I know that's not, again, what you're saying. I'll just put it like this, that it's necessary to adapt to answer the customer's concerns in a meaningful way that's going to make sense to them. At the end of the day, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I'm going to write this down too. If it makes sense to the customer, they will book. So guys like Dylan Grubb and Xavier and whatnot, even though they can be, somewhat, slick with their language sometimes, they're very, very good at accomplishing that, finding out what makes that customer interested in booking an appointment, what fits for them, right? Because if you can unlock that, then you're going to see a very high level of success, a very, very high level of success. All right, so that leads me to the last thing here. This part can be cut down significantly based on need. And I'm going to try to be very, very specific here. If I can just find my mouse. Why isn't this? Oh, there it is. Oh, here we go. Based on need, because it becomes part of another sentence sometimes when you're answering back to a customer. So again, does that sound helpful? No, man, I got to do my roof over. Oh, Mr. Jones, I appreciate you letting me know. You're right. The roof is definitely more important than the windows. I'll tell you what I'll do instead is I'll have somebody come out and just go over your options, answer your questions, and leave you with an exact price quote good for one full year. I have your last name as Jones. What's your first? So what becomes important in this part here is you can even say the goal of the visit becomes important, because you can say that is the goal of the visit is to go over your options, answer your questions, and then cut right down to give you a free price, good for one full year. Okay, so you can cut it down literally to that when you're going through this as part of one sentence. Okay, now what's extremely important though is that you transition immediately and well. So transition immediately and well. Okay, so you'll go right from that part directly into, hey, I have your last name as Jones, what's your first? I have your last name as Jones, what's your first? Okay, so let's go through a couple examples of this. All right, Corey Minton, play customer for me real quick. Okay, I want you to object in the normal places to object. Okay, all right. Down to I have your last name as Jones, what's your first? All right, may I make a suggestion?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you, man. We just got the roof put on. We just don't have the money to do it right now.
Well, look, sir, I really appreciate your honesty, and I know the roof is a big job, so that makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you what we'll do instead. Is have somebody come out and they'll just check out your windows, see if you're even having any problems. If we can't be a service to you, that's fine. But if we can, then we'll just leave you with a free price quote. That's so then that way you at least have the information set aside for when you're ready. Does that at least sound helpful to you?
I mean, it would. I don't want to waste your guys' time.
Yeah, one, and I appreciate your concern, sir. Look, our job, the whole entire goal of our visit is just to come out and discuss all your options, answer all your questions, and give you a free price quote that's good for 1 full year. That way you have information ready for whatever you decide to do your windows, and you know whether or not we're the right company for you. So I have your last name as Jones. What's your first?
Corey.
Okay. All right. So you see there, it doesn't, you are using, in a sense, in my opinion, the value of the visit to schedule the appointment. Whether you want to call that a rebuttal or not, maybe the rebuttal part of it doesn't exist really because you're using the script to assist you in that. But it's turning a negative into a positive. You know what I mean? The negative, I just got my roof done. Well, wow, sir, I completely agree with you. I appreciate your honesty. And that's a big job. You could even bring the step farther and go, I would never do the windows right after doing the roof. That's just too much. But that extreme honesty, what looks like extreme honesty, and it is being honest with the customer, that it's not going to go unnoticed. It's going to be appreciated.
I think also just understanding where the customer's at as well. I think that's what Corey was trying to get at was like you want to be understandable as well as you want to use that as a rebuttal itself too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a whole, and I did this, and it's got to be put up online. Carly, I had trouble yesterday, so these recordings, I can't just email them over to her like they're too big. The files are too big, so I had to condense them and whatever. And so I'm in the process of doing that. But we did it. We just did a great recording at like 7 o'clock at night for events on body language and voice tone. And all these things are gonna set up opportunity for you. And that's the biggest thing is that, like you said there, if depending on the customer's reaction and where they're at, you want to be setting up your putting yourself in the right position to schedule an appointment, right? Okay, that makes more sense then. All right, let's do that again. Who else wants to play customer for me there?
I can do it for you, Paul.
All right, perfect. All right, so again, I'm going to do the same exact thing. Just give me different objections. May I make a suggestion?
I mean, you can. Me and the wife probably won't be interested. These are pretty new windows. They're just replaced 10 years ago.
Okay, cool. And I'm sorry, sir, how long did you say that you lived in the home?
I've been here 15 years.
Okay, so you got them replaced 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I see that you went with the vinyl, sir. And what I would suggest for you then instead is that we just come out and test the windows for you, that we check to see if there is any problems. And if there's not, great, that's fantastic. It's a good service for you. But if there is, then we can leave you with some free information and a price. That way you can call us whenever you're ready. Does that sound like it'd be helpful to you?
A little, but again, I don't think I'll go with replacing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely would not suggest going with replacing if it's not something that you're ready for. That being said, the goal of the visit is just to go over your options, answer any questions that you have, and then just leave you with a free price. It's good for 1 full year, so you know whether or not we're the company for you whenever you're ready. Now, I have your last name here as Jones. What's your first?
Rob.
Rob Jones. Sounds like it'd be a famous singer. Okay, cool. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does.
We're just creating a level of agreement, guys. That's it. a level of agreement. We're using what the customer says as a positive that fits directly into the service that we're providing. Our service is the same for everybody, but the way that we emphasize our service matters. The way that we emphasize our service matters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense.
Okay, perfect. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and then I'm gonna start to go through these notes. I'm gonna type them out real quick. So let's just take a quick 5-minute break, and then I'm gonna start to go through these notes that I made and where the important things are there. So. Yeah, Corey, I can go through that absolutely. I think that uh it's more of a management training thing, but I mean it can help out with everybody. So we might as well touch on it. I'll go through these notes quick first, and then I'll go through that. And ultimately, like this needs to be a series of trainings. There's so much here, and on each of these notes, I could probably do a half hour training. Obviously, I'm not going to do. I'm going to try to spend 5 minutes on each of these notes just to go through and explain to them and their importance in the job, and why they can be transformative. And then we'll touch on that after, immediately after that, before we jump off. Um, just kind of a quick run through. So just realized these shoes are too small for me, dude. I don't know why the hell um they don't fit like normal Adidas, but they don't fit like normal Adidas, that's for sure. They are the collaboration that the band Korn did with Adidas, and they just don't fit the same. Um, all right, so let's start. The first one here. Whenever you're experiencing low performance or bad numbers, look back a couple steps. And this actually could fit with the note-taking thing too for managers. So and for anybody, I guess. Um so the what I mean here is that whenever we see somebody, let's say with a bad demo rate, okay, let's do it this way. Let's take a specific example. So look at North last month. North last month had a demo or not home rate of like 14%, which is really, really bad. At one point in the month, it was at 35%. That's really, really bad. Now, the average amount of appointments per person per day was like 1.1 or 0.90, something like that. Okay. In Central, the average amount of appointments per person was like 1.7 per day. The not home rate was like 7%, something like that. What, so you would think this, right? If I'm a worse canvasser, okay, if I'm not as good at getting appointments, okay, then you'd assume that I would get a lot more laydowns. What if I only have 5 appointments for the month, 10 appointments for the month? A lot of those have to be laydowns, right? I mean, they have to be the customers literally going, yeah, sure, I'll take an appointment. Sounds good. You know, so why would they have worst demo rate numbers? And the reason is going to be it's the same reason why in sales you could have a bad rep, okay, a rep that's not doing as well, go out to an appointment, a direct mail appointment, and they can't sell it. That person called in and said, hey, I want windows. They could go to a previous customer and not sell it, even though that person knows the price of the windows already. But you could take something like you just walked by, but like Shannon Brandt, for example, who can go out to a canvassing appointment in a mobile home that we can do that's worth $10,000 and he can sell it for $40,000. Right. Um, the reason is because weaker canvassers drive less expectation from the customer. The customer doesn't care as much about the appointment. They don't see the person caring about their job the same way as the person that does really, really, really well. And so weaker reps will drive a low demo rate. So if I'm the manager and I just look at demo rate, not homes, I'm going to be saying things to that person like, hey, you got to make sure you have both homeowners there. Hey, you got to make sure that you have, that you've gone through at least 90 minutes. Stuff like that. Hey, you got to make sure that you, how do I put it, that you did a good last impression with the customer, right? The reality is that they probably lost that appointment. They probably made that a not home in the window problem. They probably made that a not home by sounding so unsure to the customer in the value of the visit that they didn't create any value for the customer, right? That's probably where they made this appointment fail, right? And so we're looking in the wrong spot sometimes. we're looking in the wrong spot. And so we correct the wrong areas and we overcomplicate things and make them more difficult than they need to be. So, for example, if I got someone that's afraid to rebuttal people, right? Well, that's a problem. I want to teach them how to rebuttal. I want to teach them how to use the basic rebuttals, the ones that are in the scripting, right? However, what will make them feel more comfortable? Well, maybe you'll make them feel more comfortable by doing a good job of teaching them that that uh, they're looking in the wrong place for an appointment, that they need to create agreement with the customer. Maybe they'll feel a lot more comfortable if they create that agreement with the customer. So you have to always look a couple steps back if you're performing in a bad way, right? So, for example, personal connections are rarely the problem. We can assign that as the problem. Personal connections can be the solution, but they're rarely the problem. Okay, meaning that customer isn't most of the time going, "Oh man, I really just needed to connect with that person. I needed that connection with that door-to-door rep today." That's all I've been waiting for in my life is I just needed to talk to that guy. That's not typically the way that customers are thinking. Maybe some elderly people would benefit from that. However, it can help if the customer likes you. Well, then yeah, they're going to want to be there for you. They're not going to want you to have a bad experience with them. And so creating agreement in that way is good too. But showing the customer the value of the appointment for them, what specifically makes sense for them, why it's specifically important for them, that's what will make the customer feel have a level of success with you. Okay. So that's the first note. Okay. The second note, avoid rebuttaling whenever you can. This does not mean that you leave the house early ever. No, I'm a big believer in stay there until you're not able to stay there anymore. If the customer is allowing you time, then utilize that time until it becomes completely wasteful. Okay. What I mean by that is you obviously have those customers. We had one the other day, the last time I was out, where the guy just wanted to talk. I mean, I must have rebutted him, like rebutted, like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 times. I had worked through the script. The guy loved us. He was making personal connections with us, but he just wanted human connection. It was near Christmas, and it was I guess it was like mid-January actually, and he was having problems with his family, and he just really wanted to talk about it, right? So obviously, at some stage there, you have to walk away, and the best way to do that, by the way, is to let them know that you appreciate their time, but you don't want to take up more of their time, and then start to leave, right? So you're turning into, again, a positive on you. Hey, Mr. Jones, I appreciate the time that you've given me. Now, if the customer still won't let you out of there, because I've heard this from people before, then you want to say, look, Mr. Jones, I got to get going. If my manager drives by, they're going to kill me. You know what I mean? Make it about your manager, make it about the job that you have to do that day, and they'll be fine. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't want to avoid having to rebuttal. I wouldn't consider any of those things that I did for the most part in those couple pitches in those areas where it was a couple objections in a row. I wouldn't really think of those as rebuttals right there. I mean, they sort of are. They're answers to objections, right? But I'm basically using the script. I'm basically using the script to move forward, not really as a rebuttal, but to move forward. The idea is the further I get along, the better off I'm going to be, right? That's the idea. So if you can avoid rebuttaling by leveraging the script, creating agreement, so saying things like, Mr. Jones, I appreciate you letting me know, and then continuing on with your pitch. Mr. Jones, that makes a lot of sense. Mr. Jones, of course, I wouldn't expect you to do that right now. Mr. Jones, I appreciate you letting me know. I don't know if I said that one already, but anything like that that's going to create a level of agreement is going to be beneficial to your appointment. As long as you continue with your pitch, okay? So, and then remember, guys, you can change the meaning of what you're saying. So you can say to them, well, Mr. Jones, because you told me that. Oh, Mr. Jones, that makes total sense. Well, because you told me that, what we'll do is just have somebody come out. They'll just take a look at windows, see if we can even help you, and then leave you with a free quote. Every last name is Jones. What's your first? Drive a specific response from the customer by using your scripting and understanding. Okay. So I mentioned this already, and this kind of the last one just kind of bled into this, but you got to create agreement with the customer. And if it makes sense to them, then they're going to book the appointment. Okay. So you got their attention at this point, right? It just needs to make sense to them. So for example, I'm walking in the mall, and those people that stand in the middle of the mall, one of them gets really positively aggressive and really approaches me. And they're like, hey, this happened to me the other day, actually, a little while ago. The guy's like, hey, can I clean your shoe? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like, he got right in front of me. So I put my foot up on this thing, and he cleaned my shoe, and it came out great. Well, now I have one clean shoe, right? And one that's not clean. So the guy starts telling me about his product. It made me want to buy it. I'm like, wow, I can see the result here. I can see this is a great product. It makes sense to me. Wow, if I can clean all my shoes, that means that I'm not going to have to buy shoes. These shoes that I have, I love them. They don't even make them anymore, right? This is going to give me value. I could see the value. It made sense to me at that point. And then the guy says to me, as I'm showing interest and I'm holding the package that he's trying to give me the shoe cleaner package. He's like, I'll tell you what, if you buy that, I'll clean the other shoe too for free. Well, that makes total sense. I don't want to walk around with one dirty shoe. You know what I mean? So that makes total sense. So if it makes sense to the customer, guys, they're going to book the appointment. So the window problems are not the be all end all. They're not the most important thing. They're just a part of building your pitch. They're just a part of building the interest. Okay. And that's why they are important. However, you can get away with, my windows are a little bit drafty and they're a little bit hard to open and close. You can get away with that stuff. So it just make it make sense to them. Okay. And then finally transition immediately to keep control. If you don't transition immediately, if you say, well, Mr. Jones, I didn't expect to catch you on the day that you were ready to replace your windows. Pause. Then they're going to shut you down again. This is the problem with the event scripting that we're changing, is that they get to a point where they've exhausted their entire pitch, they've exhausted everything in it, and then the customer starts to object. Well, now they have nothing to go back to. What are you going to do? Go back to 90 minutes? Customer says, I'm not interested. And you go, well, I didn't expect to catch you on the day that you're ready to replace your windows. Now, we need at least two things from you, or all we need is two things from you, at least 90 minutes, right? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? You're going right from the appointment to a negative for them. They have to put their time in and so on and so forth. So it's just, this is not, it's like, it's not rocket science, right? It's like, it makes total sense to maintain control of the conversation. You don't have to have a continuous diatribe that you're just saying out loud. You have to be able to conceptualize what you're trying to do through using the scripting. And then you need to, so I guess here, I'm gonna pick a different way to put this. Okay. So in order to maintain control, you need to decide, what rebuttal, whatever you're going to use. Okay. And then you need to decide how it's going to fit into the next part of the script. So for example, may I make a suggestion? I don't know. I'm not really interested right now. Well, of course, Mr. Jones, I didn't expect to catch you on the day that you're ready to replace your windows. However, we're getting ahead of ourselves, because all I would do is have one of our foremen come out, just take a look at your windows, see if we can even do it in these people here and find out what you like. Okay, so on and so forth. So it's just about maintaining control. Okay. All right. Before we get into note taking, is there any questions on that?
No, sir.
All right, great. So there's no doubt this is going to have to be a series of videos, and there's not enough time in the day to go through all this stuff. There's just not enough time in the day to go through all of it. It's going to be a series of videos, a series of trainings, and I think each of these topics deserves a sizable amount of time. What I'm trying to do with this first set of videos right in the beginning is set aside the topics that make the most sense to go over, where people are struggling most and where they can get the most out of. And I think that a lot of that is going to be maintaining control of the conversation, right? That's going to be a lot of that. Does that make sense? Let me find these real quick. Okay. All right, I'm going to pull up a set of knock notes that I use. These goes back. This is back in 2021. I just was looking up. I have a bunch of sets of knock notes in my computer, and this is one that just makes sense. So here's the deal: when you're out working with somebody, right? And by the way, too, how does this resonate for a canvasser? You know, because Corey asked me about going over this. How does this resonate to a canvasser, though? You should be taking notes when you're with your manager, too. You know, when you're with your manager or someone that you're walking with or role playing with, for that matter, you should be taking notes. And if you disagree with something that they do or say, then you should be especially writing that down and asking about it. Right? It makes complete and total sense for there to be two sets of notes and for there to be communication about those notes too. So what I have is a set of notes, and I'm not going to go through all of them, from back in 2021. It's a guy named Nate. And Nate, I remember just like it was, I remember this specific day because he was going out of Virginia and or Maryland, and we were knocking over towards my house. It was like farmland, farm country, whatever. And there was one customer that gave him a negative reaction that I had to turn around. He was such a positive guy that everybody was super happy to see him. He never had a negative interaction. There was one lady, she was not a nice lady, and she was a big St. Louis Cardinals fan. I remember because I happen to have a baseball card on me with one of her favorite players' autographs. And I was like, "Here, ma'am, you can have this."
Makes more sense.
So I collected cards at the time, though, and so I actually had it was a Dylan Carlson. I forget what team he's on now, maybe the Yankees or something like that. I'm actually curious. I was looking at baseball rosters. I'm not going to go through that right now, but last night, and man, the Yankees did it again. They got another killer team. The Red Sox, so I'm happy with their pitching now. They picked up a couple good pitchers. Dylan Carlson is now with the Red Sox. Cool.
I did see that.
Yeah, they got Walker Bueller. They got Garrett Crochet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Who's really, really good. No, he's with Dylan Carlson's with the Orioles.
Correct.
Cool. Yeah, see, he started off super good, man, and now he's just like he's not as good as he was. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. I'm sad to see. What's his name? He just went to the Diamondbacks.
I haven't been paying enough attention. Is it a big guy for the Orioles or?
He was with the Orioles. He was a pitcher. Oh shoot, what's his name? I forget. Anyway, not important.
Well, no. Now I want to know. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Oh, Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. He's great. These pictures are so funny because their half life is so determined. Like so many of them are not healthy. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So tough. It's like these guys, like take Walker Bueller, for example. I mean, he was a great on the Dodgers for like 2 years, had surgery, and now he's, got a 5 ERA. You know what I mean? It's just like,
right.
So hopefully you can get it back this year. I'm hoping because the Red Sox need that. But yeah, I like how the Red Sox, the Orioles, and whatever are building their teams. They just can't compete with the Titans of the Yankees, from Paul Goldschmidt. I know he's old as hell, but he's still just fantastic.
Yep.
It's to what they pick up Jazz Chisholm. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just crazy to me.
Hey, Paul.
What's that?
I don't mean to interrupt, but when I sent you that message about taking effective notes, my question was more for canvassers putting effective notes into the ISC call center.
Oh,
kind of.
okay.
So
Okay,
I
cool.
appreciate you going over this stuff. That's awesome. But taking effective notes for the canvassers to make it more effective to call people.
Okay, well that's better because I'd much rather go through that in this than go through something with a team lead thing. I was going to do it.
Yeah, sorry, that was just a little bit of a miscommunication on our part. Sorry about that.
All good. Well, we'll save the other note-taking stuff for a different time then. How about that?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
All right, I see your note now. Yeah, all right, let's go through that. That's good then. Let's make some quick, then that's something that we can go through very easily on here. So the first thing is, guys, is that there needs to be regulation in between departments. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be mistakes made by the call center. There's going to be mistakes made by us. There's going to be mistakes made by sales reps, right? What we can do is clean up our jobs and clean up our houses enough to where we can call those things out when they happen. I hate to put it that way, but that's the reality. I want to be able to go in there and be like, hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you guys doing this? You know what I mean? I want to be able to do that. The best way for us to be able to do that is to be able to realize that, hey, we've done everything right in this scenario. And a big part of that is sending in effective notes and communicating when something doesn't go right. So when you have a situation with the call center and you think, hey, they should have done something differently, luckily the calls are recorded. And I'll give you a big one, a very important one that really needs focus right now is if they're not walking down the calendar. If let's say you get on with a call center rep, and let's say it's especially towards the end of the week and they jump into next week, they go, oh, okay, yeah, we can do Monday. You know what I mean? That I need to know about that immediately. Okay. And I would prefer to know about that. You're to let your manager know too, but I would prefer to know about that too. Because I can look up the recording and listen to it. Now recognize that our job is to put them in a good situation. It's to put them understand they're not in front of the customer. So when we put them in a weird situation where we're setting up a lead with a 21-year-old daughter for their parents' house, that's not a good situation. Okay. So first, what should be in the notes? Okay. Window problems should be number one. Okay. Window problems. And I'm going to put a couple notes on this because that's obvious, right? But will make a lot more sense in a second. Okay. So be accurate on counts. If you don't know, you can estimate. That's fine. Okay. You can, but when I say be accurate on counts, this is what I mean, because you might be like, estimate counts or accurate. How can I do both? What I mean is, if the person says to you, look, I got 10 windows in the house. I really only want to get these 2 looked at. Put 2 windows in the little yellow box. Put in the notes, they have 10 windows in the house. Okay. There's 10 older windows. They want to look at 2 more immediately, right? So be accurate on the counts like that. Okay. But if you don't know, if they want to get the whole house looked at and you don't know, then you can say 10, 15, 20. Okay. That's fine, right? You don't need them to go around and count. It's okay. With the window problems, okay, be detailed. Don't just check boxes. Don't leave negative comments for sales. I'll go through that as a specific. Okay. What that means is don't say things like, really doesn't want to buy now. Now, the customer might have said that to you, and that you might be like, oh, I'm just trying to be honest with them. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. However, that's not going to win you anything. That's just going to serve to get in their heads. Okay, they're the ones that will decide whether or not they want to buy now with the customer, right? We just want to give them the necessary information. Okay. The more specific that you can be, the better. Okay. So an example of a specific note, customer has 2 windows in front with fog in glass. The back has 1 that doesn't open, and the house is not energy efficient. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Sorry. Yeah, just visiting me for a second. So that's just an example, okay? Number two, put down any information important for the sales rep. And what I mean by that is military, person's in the military, okay, or was in the military. They have 3 children, triplets, and are loud. Okay. It's helping them prepare for this. Okay. Here's a big one. This is a big one. Spouse just passed away. All right. Third, bring the call center's attention to any notes they need to see. For example, all right, so okay. So for example, when you get on the phone, say, hey, blank, can you please check the notes before scheduling? All right, so you please check the notes. Okay. Before you schedule, you please check the notes before you schedule. Then that's going to tell them, hey, that way then they don't ask about the dead husband, right? Okay, it's a very important thing, guys. That communication is extremely important. Okay. Now, last thing too, and then I'll answer any questions on this because it's almost time for us to go. I got another meeting at 12. But last thing here, guys, is if you need to interact with the call center, don't do it in front of the customer. Call them right after.
Cole mentioned not to be on speaker when you're talking to the call center. Is that true?
That's a good idea. It's a good idea to put them on speaker. So you got to let it's like this. You got to let the call center know what you're doing. Okay. So after,
Right.
so don't do it in front of the customer. Call them right after. So let's say that you don't agree with something that they do. They don't schedule an appointment. You're like, what the fuck is that? Right? Then call them after. Don't call it out in front of the customer. It can be corrected. You can go back to the house if need be. We can listen to the call, whatever. Just call after and say, hey, can I speak to a manager? Can I speak to whatever caller? And then have that conversation there. I'll address what you're saying now. When it comes to speakerphone, okay, put the customer on speaker, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not you with the call center.
Because he mentioned how sometimes like the call center says like some out of pocket stuff, and then it could leave a bad impression on the customer.
Yeah, I mean, anybody's able to say anything, right? So like you never know what could happen, right?
Right.
So it gives you the safety there. But I would say is definitely let them know what you're doing.
For
So
sure.
so if you're like, hey, like for me, I always talk on speakerphone, like fucking always. You know what I mean? Then like no matter what, whether I'm home or whatever, I'm in a store, unless I'm at the counter at the store, then I talk on speakerphone, or I just say, hey, hold on a second if I'm at the counter, because I think it's rude. So if you're more comfortable on speakerphone, just let them know, hey, hey, this is Paul Duffy. Who is this? Great. Hey, I got you on speaker here. I'm with Mr. Jones. Okay. Just let them know.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So is there any questions about this?
I have one. Is it okay to add stuff that just helps the sales reps build rapport? Because that's typically something I do in my notes.
Yeah, right here, dude. Military. They have 3 children, triplets. They're
Okay.
like anything like that. Anything at all that you think that they should know, add for sure.
Yeah, because I set up an appointment the other day where the minister was going on a fishing trip over the weekend, like at a fishing camp.
Yeah,
So I put that in the notes because like that's an easy thing to talk about, and he'll talk about it.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. Absolutely. And,
Yeah,
and
I
it's,
just had one that was a volunteer firefighter. Sorry for interrupting,
oh,
Paul.
you're good. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
but yeah, but I think he no homed being on a call the other day, which
Mm.
made me very sad.
It happens, dude. It happens. But yeah, that sucks. But it happens. But that's a good one to put down. And all those are good to put down. The And then here's the thing too is you guys, if there's something that's really unique, you know, the person has a extremely unique job. They used to sell windows, they work for Marvin Appel, whatever. You can also call the rep too. You know what I mean? Like I can get you the number for the rep to call them if you feel like you need to, once they're assigned to the appointment. So you might not want to do that. You don't have to do that, definitely. But if you want to, you feel like it's useful, then feel free to. All right, I have another call to get on, guys, but is there any other questions before I go?
Think we're good.
I'm good, Paul.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Paul.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
day.
sir.
You guys have a beautiful day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.